Running Gear Games just revealed Path of Exile 2's upcoming content drop, Dawn of the Hunt, which is bringing us a new class, 3 new ascendancies for existing classes, and a host of other improvements including new support gems, crafting options, and of course, new endgame content. Here's everything we know in 10 minutes. First up, we were given a short trailer revealing the Huntress class coming April 4th with the rest of this content. And to note, this will bring a new league and an economy reset. Your previous characters remain and will be playable, but not in the same league. No news on the Druid if you are holding out hope for that. The Huntress is our new dexterity class. Using a spear as their main weapon, the Huntress is designed to fluidly move between melee and ranged combat styles, with the spear having both melee and ranged skill options. We saw some of those new skills shown off. Whirling Slash creates a whirlwind, blinding and damaging enemies, and exploding when you leave its AoE. We saw ranged twisters, which can be thrown at enemies and bounce off terrain, and of course, a disengage skill, allowing the Huntress to jump out of combat, which can be used as a nifty escape tool, as it can interrupt actions or dodge rolls. The Huntress will have elemental options, and it was shown off in the gameplay demo that elemental spears could be used to create explosions and leave burning ground. If you then use Whirling Slash in this ground, you'll create a fire whirlwind, and casting twisters will then shoot out multiple burning tornadoes. Some great use of skill combinations. More importantly, we were also introduced to a new shield type, the Buckler, which has the ability to parry attacks, reflecting enemy attacks, stunning them, and creating an opportunity for increased damage from your next strike. Remember, all classes will have access to the Spear and Buckler, not just the Huntress. We also saw a number of bleed-related abilities, including Rake and Rapid Assault, which both cause bleeding on enemies. Finally, we also got a look at the Companion skill. This allows the Huntress to raise a beast to accompany them. This particular skill will allow you to raise dead rare mobs, who will retain their modifiers. A great opportunity to take a powerful enemy and put them on your side. While on the topic of summons and skills, we're also finally receiving 2 highly sought after skills. The Summon Rower, which allows you to literally ride a rower while shooting arrows for your rangers or throwing spears as the Huntress. Be careful though, taking too much damage on this will throw you off and leave you very vulnerable for a window of time. And secondly, we are getting Ray's Spectre, a skill gem aimed at witch players that will let you summon any dead monster in the game. Absolutely insane. This does not work on bosses, and it does not capture the rare or magic modifiers on enemies. You'll get the base mob, however it will retain any skills or actions it had. So mobs that charge or shoot beams of death will do the same thing for you. The cost of these mobs will be proportional to their strength, so you can summon lots of smaller boys or a couple of beefy ones. Like your skeletons, these minions will automatically resummon on death. While on the topic of skills, we're also receiving over 100 new support gems. We got a sneak peek at a few Hemo Crystals, which will cause socketed skills to consume bleed and create detonating crystals on enemies. Alignment, which rewards you for shooting in the direction indicated at your feet. Caltrops to maim and damage. Enormity, to increase your minion's size, damage, and life. Profanity, which consumes the nearby course to deal more chaos damage, and more. The vast majority of these 100 supports obviously weren't shown off, but they did highlight the hope that this will help round out classes and builds who felt like they had limited build options due to those gem choices. Moving on to ascendancies, we were introduced to our 2 Huntress options. The Ritualist, who looks to be focused on buffs to your character and equipment. They have the option of a Corrupted Blood skill that will cause build-up of the effect on nearby enemies, and then cause that to spread on death to other enemies. The Ritualist can also gain an extra ring slot. Absolutely nuts it's taken them this long to realize you can wear more than 2 rings on one hand, but it is tied to this ascendancy. And it doesn't stop there. They can boost ring and amulet bonuses by 25%. That's 4 gear pieces you're buffing alone. And a really interesting skill, Ritual Sacrifice, allows you to absorb a modifier from a dead rare enemy, adding it to yourself for a brief period. If spec'd into further, you could also sacrifice your own health to gain another. The second ascendancy for the Huntress is the Amazon. With a focus on buffing your combat abilities in interesting ways, the Amazon can deal an additional 50% damage to rares and uniques when hitting weak spots. Weak spots aren't targetable on an enemy, but are instead sections of their health bar in which they will take that extra damage. The Amazon can use your charges to empower their weapons with elemental infusion. They can boost crit chance based on your excess chance to hit stat, allow their life leech to also leech from elemental damage, and modify their flasks so that both health and mana flasks grant both health and mana, double the efficiency. For our existing characters, the warrior can now ascend into the Smith of Katava, allowing you to literally temper your weapon in maps and add explosions on hit to weapon attacks. You can summon an animated version of your weapon to fight alongside you, and most interesting of all, the Smith's Masterwork node will prevent you from wearing magic or rare body armor, but will then allow you to choose the mods you'd want from the semicircle scene here, letting you basically craft some of the mods you'd want on your armor. For the mercenary, we have the new tactician, with an interesting focus on co-op gameplay. The tactician can make all of their damaging projectiles build the status effect pin, with another node in the tree preventing enemies who are affected by pin from performing actions. Nice to keep the enemies in place. From a co-op perspective, this ascendancy can place multiple banners, which provide those powerful auras. They can provide allies in your presence with 35% of your main hand weapons damage, and summon a gigantic rain of arrows with the supporting fire skill. Finally, for our new ascendancies, we're receiving the Lich. Very unique again, the Lich can allow you to socket a jewel, massively increasing its effectiveness, but with the caveat that if you have no energy shield, your mana costs increase by 50%. The Lich can also gain extra chaos damage for you and your minions while you're not low on mana, with the downside being you lose 5% of your mana per second. They can also take nodes that force cursed enemies to explode on death, damaging those around them, and finally, apply an additional curse, and curse enemies that were previously hexproof. For our final section of the video, let's cover the crafting and other changes including Endgame. We'll be receiving over 100 new uniques into Path of Exile 2. The devs made a point of noting that their focus was on interesting mid and endgame tiered unique items. We only had a couple shown off on screen, and we'll need to see the rest land on the 4th of April. For crafting, we will be receiving changes to runes, both of the runes gaining new tiers to increase player choice in game, and some new ones coming from unique maps we'll touch on soon. Another crafting change comes in the way of the Recombinator, which is being introduced to the endgame expedition mechanic. This will allow you to combine two items of the same type and attempt to choose which modifier of each you want. The more modifiers you're aiming to bring over will decrease your chances of success. And finally, with Dawn of the Hunt, we will see the introduction of Azurian wisps. This mechanic is present in both the campaign and endgame. As you traverse through the world, you will encounter wisps, which will move away from you. The wisp will empower all enemies it moves past until it enters into a rare mob, empowering it even more. The rare mob will get stronger based on how many enemies were empowered by the wisp and how many of those you killed. This mechanic can drop socketable items like our runes and have different effects based on the wisp type, with some improving enemy health, others making them evasive, or orange sacred wisps, which have unique mechanics, with the example given being that one orange wisp could turn normal mobs into magic, magic to rare, and rares into bosses. They will also have their own unique endgame map and an option on the Atlas tree to pursue. And last but not least, our endgame changes. There's quite a bit coming our way here. First up, we're receiving 7 new maps with custom encounters. We were shown the Feral Megalith map, which allows you to go on a boss slaying marathon, summoning up to 10 bosses in the map, with each becoming more powerful and rewarding you with new greater runes that can be socketed into your items. We'll be receiving new Atlas passive points and changes in the way we receive those points, now being tasked with completing specific corrupted maps in order to cleanse them, which will create new cleansed maps in the area, bring with them new drops like the Fractured Orb, which will allow you to lock in a modifier on an item, preventing it from being changed through other crafting methods. We're seeing Rogue Exiles return, unique strongboxes with new mechanics, reliquary keys, and unique tablets that have special mechanics, like allowing you to travel to nodes within a tower's range that aren't connected. And speaking of towers, we'll be seeing much less of them, but they will be more interesting. Now allowing you to enter 3 tablets if you've used a high enough tier map to unlock the extra slots, and giving a reason to run higher tiered maps in them to unlock this benefit. Towers will also now spawn bosses and other endgame mechanics, ensuring they aren't a chore to run. And finally, we're seeing a change to the way dying occurs in maps. Your number of portal uses, so deaths you're allowed in a map, is now shown on the waystone and is impacted by how many modifiers a map has. If a map is fully loaded, you'll get 1 attempt. If you are struggling, leave a mod or 2 off and you'll get an extra life or 2 when you run through it, allowing you to judge your risk and your reward. These are the major points coming out of today's live stream. I hope I was able to summarize that and bring it together for you. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, throw a like on it, sub if you want to see more, and let me know in the comments, what change are you most looking forward to out of this? Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.